Hello, everyone. Happy Saturday. So I know that we're all feeling this very heavy sadness because of what's going on in our country today. And these are for sure very, very difficult times. And it's undeniable that some of our communities are suffering more than others. And there is still way too much injustice in the world today. And I think that we can all agree that what we really would benefit here today is for us to take a few moments and to focus on healing and love and acceptance and a sense of interconnectedness. And, you know, of course, when we planned to have my dear friend Donna D'Cruz on, look, the last couple of months haven't been great for sure, but it just feels like today is just even worse. It's magnified. And who better? Oh gosh, I feel so grateful. It feels like it's all in divine order that we have Donna here today, because who better to center us and to really help us connect to ourselves, for us to be able to connect to hope and care and healing and love, because those are the things that we have to, no matter what, regardless of the circumstances that are happening in our politics, in our government, if we don't have that inside of us, we're going to fall apart. So I feel so grateful to have Donna here today, who just is really, she's one of the most exquisite women I know, emotionally, mentally, physically, spiritually. It's so interesting because when a lot of the social media went out that Donna was going to be on this broadcast today, so many of my New York City friends were texting me and saying, "Oh my God, Lavinia, I did my first meditation with Donna." Like, it was amazing. The feedback that I kept getting, it was like, I love her. Like, her meditations are amazing. She was the first person that actually got me inspired to meditate. So I want to introduce all of you to the beautiful, the magical, and the inspirational Donna D'Cruz.
Thank you, Lavinia. Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure. And I too I had feelings about being here together when we first planned on taking our relationship public in the way that we are. But this week and these past days have been electrifying, haven't they? They've really, I think, no matter where you are, I get messages from people and friends all around the world tuning in and asking what's going on here, because I think the resonance of it is so powerful. And to me, it's a symbol of, it's emblematic of how we were already feeling. There was the sort of COVID moment of isolation that has already made us feel a certain way and give us that sort of resonance. But when you have this spark, it's just galvanized, I think, a lot of things for people. So I thought it might be a great way for us to kind of, I know you normally take those wonderful moments, and I think that's a beautiful way to start. So we thought that it might be great to kind of tune into that frequency. And as you so beautifully said it, feel the interconnectedness, because when we have those feelings of anger, frustration, fear, arrogance, ignorance,
righteousness,
also
righteousness,
absolutely.
So people that are righteousness. Everybody thinks the way they think is the right way.
That's right. And it is polarizing us at a time where, as you beautifully said, this is a time to really think about the interconnectedness of me to my family, yes, to my friends, yes, but to the ones that I don't personally know. You're connected. There's a saying when we talk about, when I'm teaching little girls, or teens, and we try to talk about the interconnectedness of things. And in quantum physics, if you like that, it's a wonderful world of quantum entanglement. But to make it simple, and this is a lovely way to think of it, and then we'll do the meditation together. There's a saying that says that when a butterfly flaps its wings in the Amazon, it will be felt as a blustering wind in the middle of the ocean of the Caribbean or in Bali or whatever it might be. It shows us that we are interconnectedness. There is a divine nature and accordance to things. And I think when we stand on ground that is polarizing and polemic and makes us feel like we're separate, that's pain and suffering. And pain and suffering comes when we essentially don't take the time to know ourselves. And that, I think, we're seeing personified in leadership. We're seeing it personified in governance. We're seeing it personified on the local level. And I think one of the most important things we can do right now is to understand that the responsibility starts with self. Let's move out of this lane and this thoroughfare of victimization, because yes, with this enormous amount of people having lost jobs that may not ever return, wondering like, where the heck am I getting food from? Where's my rent coming from? How do I sell my stuff? Or some of the I've got good, young women. I know we both are mentoring beautiful young women who are starting new companies, and they're wondering, well, what happens to my startup now? So these are times where we have to get in touch with ourselves, redefine what self means, and understand. Don't be looking outside of yourself and for blame, because that's a story that we'll tell beautifully and forevermore. This is a time to actually tune into, like, what is self-governance? Yeah. Self-governance is, what is my breath doing? What food am I eating? Where's my water coming from? Am I speaking as kindly, as compassionately, and with as much wisdom as I can? These are not grandiose ideas. These are things that we can all do in a very 1, 2, 3 sort of format. And, we do that right now by beginning with our own breath. And I know you can't probably see it all, but I have a beautiful setup here with bowls and bells. But I thought I would just start with a dip into bliss, which is what I've called meditation that I offer, because it's not a teaching method and it's not a curriculum. It's not a learning. It's actually just an experience of self. So if we could do that now, does that sound good? Like we can.
That sounds amazing.
Yes. Okay, great. Well, there's so much work you have to do. You have to close your eyes and breathe. So let's just begin by doing that. I'll start. I use music, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that in a bit, but let's just begin by closing our eyes. Wherever you are, just find your seat. And no matter what's going in your life, that seat is that sacred place right at the perineum, just between where your genitals are and the anus is. Right there is the seat where you ground into this moment. And take a long, slow, deep breath in through the nose and exhale. And just stay with your breath. The breath work we do is nasal, so in and out through the nose. There's no work here, no effort, just you and that most sacred of things, your breath. It is your breath that connects you to all sentient beings on this planet. It is your breath that connects you to the cosmos and beyond. And with your next inhale, silently say the word let. And with your next exhale, silently say the word go. And just for a few moments, just allow your thoughts to come and go. and stay with that breath easily and gently. And keeping your eyes softly closed, notice your breath. Notice the part of you that's doing the noticing. This silent witness. One of our great mystics says that when we pray, we talk to the divine. And when we meditate, we listen. Very gently put your palms together, keep your eyes gently closed. And be grateful for your health, for your compassionate heart, for your light that you bring forth. And take a long, slow, deep breath in through the nose. And exhale. Namaste. The spirit in me recognizes the great spirit in each of you. And when you're ready, very gently open your eyes. Come back to the space. Don't rush at all.
Wow, that was so good.
I
I love your voice, Donna. You have like the most amazing voice. It's just
thank you.
so beautiful, and it's so calming, and it's just, oh.
You know, it's funny, Lavinia, that voice I have only just started talking about it recently, but something that I think is important. Like a lot of us, you know, we're looking for our voice, aren't we? We feel stifled. We certainly feel isolated.
Women.
We feel like, okay. I beg your pardon?
Especially women.
Women, oh, well said, absolutely. For lots of reasons. And that chakra is the place of expression. It's a place where you authenticate your truth. And I spent a lot of time when I was a little girl. I had a terrible stammer. Mm-hmm. It was absolutely paralyzing stammer. And so when I hear someone to this day, isn't it funny, the stories we tell ourselves? To this day, when I hear even a friend say, your voice, and I hear it a lot in the meditation space, especially in the recovery space, I'm reminded every time to be grateful, to give thanks, because that voice appeared when it was in service of others. It changed. It's a little hoarse now from allergy seasons and all of that in New York, but the voice appeared when I made way, got out of my fear space and said, okay, bring it on. If this is going to show up, then I'm going to. So that was a really powerful lesson for myself. But as a kid, you know, I was a school captain, a prefect, all these things. I was like, no, I don't want any of those things. Because I knew I'd have to speak. Isn't it funny, the story? So then you unlearn those things, and then the world lays down her feet, ready to give you what you dream possible.
So that's a great segue right into, you know, really share with us your journey. And because I know you talk about being exposed to meditation as a young girl.
Yeah.
And that was something that you started doing young. And I mean, I think the thing that's so amazing with you, Donna, is like you've had a lot of lives, you know, like you, I mean, you're an artist and you're about music and you recorded music yourself. And then you're this, I mean, I remember when I heard about you at first, it's like, this woman is like the hottest DJ. Like, oh my God, she's like amazing. She travels the world DJing. And I mean, that was before DJs were like that hip thing. Like you were that. Right. You like sort of segued into that, or maybe you even sort of really created that whole celebrity DJ phenomenon, which really is today. And then I think the way I remember the story going is like you saw how people in your life in different areas were suffering, mm-hmm. and how they were dealing with addiction issues or just being lost on their path, and how you again went into service, mm-hmm. Knowing that, you know, that meditation could help shift some of that. So take us through a little bit about your personal journey and then go into that place of really being of service to helping others. And then before you know it, you're making a living from it. It's amazing, you know, when we're able to do that. And again, especially at a time like now, because as we said, 41 million people lost their jobs. Yeah. And people are going to have to reinvent themselves. But a big part of, I believe, reinventing is you've got to reset first. You have to sort of come back, do a little bit of self-work, then, you know, then you can go out and reinvent. But if you are trying to reinvent in the craziness of chaos and fear and worry and reaction, the chances are your reinvention is never going to be successful because it's coming from such a frenetic, crazy place.
Yeah, so, and from a place of fear.
Yeah, like I said, too much fear.
Yeah,
so totally. Take us through that, and I mean, think about when you're telling the story, how we can start planting seeds for people on this journey while they're going to be doing, you know, a lot of the same things that you had to do or you did, you know.
Well, I was born in India. I grew up in between India and Australia. So there's that. So there are those, you know, I'm aware of those roots and what that means. I've always loved music. I grew up in a musical family where we sang 5-part harmonies and hymns because it's a Christian family in India, of all places. And we played mandolins and pianos and we danced. It was about music all the time. You know, we really sang together as a family. So I grew up with that sort of love of music. And we told jokes and you know, it was a fun, beautiful family for the most part, but like, you know, nightmarish as like all families can be. But I came with, you know, having loved music, I never really, and I think this is really important because I've been thinking a lot. I think we are all mirrors unto each other. And I know so much of what you and I have bonded us together is like, we can really understand the places that we've come from. And I didn't set out to take music and go, right, so I'm going to dive into this music thing. I was doing some modeling when I was in Australia and I was trying to get by and I was figuring myself out. I was going to school and studying at the same time. And I was doing this artwork and I started painting these images, and a friend of mine noticed and said, gosh, that artwork is so beautiful. It looks like, you know, an Inda Bailey artwork out of Africa. And I was like, what is that? I studied it. It's like, oh, I get that. Yeah, it kind of does. And then she said, why don't we do some artwork together? She was from South Africa. Let's do something together. We turned this conversation into showing up at Paddington markets in Sydney at 4:00 in the morning with our box. So I taught myself how to make these earrings, drilling and making all that stuff. And we ended up selling these earrings. The guy, her husband, worked in the music industry. And we would go out and hang out and have some wine in the backyard in Australia. And I was like, and when we'd talk about music, I was, you know, I had a sort of a language, a vernacular for it. And one day out of the blue, he said, yeah, the South Africa, Donna, you've got the sus. I think you should come and work in the music industry. And I was like, I don't know how to do that. What does that mean? I taught myself to type in 2 weeks. I went after school and I was learning how to type. I did that. And I showed up he just said, just let's not tell anybody you don't know anything. Within 3 months, I started working not just for him, but 3 other people, in the industry. And I loved it. And I got offered a job in New York, which I turned down because I was like, I'm not ready to do that yet. I still have my family and everything. But eventually I came to New York and I had 3 telephone numbers. I left everything in Australia and I just had I had a love that was coming to America. And I was like, let's just end up, let's go to New York. I came to New York with $300, 5 didgeridoos and 2 telephone numbers. And I think everyone in my family, my tribe, were like, I think she's insane. And I felt a lot of that insanity. But there was also that deep knowing that regardless of what anyone says or does, this is my path. I need to do this. And so I did. And so I came to New York and started work. I got a job very quickly, got myself a green card in 18 months. But when I say that, let me be clear. I didn't just go, oh, hi, I need to get a green card. I went to New York City Library and studied, immigration law, so I could understand what were the parameters that I needed to apply for. And then I saved up, got a lawyer. Anyway, got that done, and then my partner and I started. I was working for NXS, which is a big rock band. They were playing stadiums around the world, and I was coordinating, stuff for this very big company, and they were a big business. They were even bigger than U2 at that time.
Wow.
And then, but it wasn't I loved the music, but I didn't love it as much as I loved world music, cultural music, multicultural, spiritual music, yogic, whatever you want to call it. And so I started just at night, we had this thing called the didgeridoo. He played the didgeridoo. We were talking about this world music instrument at a time where people were like, what? It's a tree limb? It falls out of what? Who are you guys? But, I just had this seed in me that was, my sister always says, you're always the glass half full girl. It's always going to be that way for me. And I always think of what's possible. And Milton Berle says, if you knock at the door and it doesn't answer, build another door. So that's my attitude. That's the way I've lived my life. Even when I started DJing, I have an encyclopedic knowledge of music. I listen to music all the time. So when I was in environments with icons in the music industry, because that's, the world I was kind of moving in, I would know what music they were talking about. I was intelligent about it. I had, a lexicon that belonged, in a sophisticated world around music. So people would ask me to manage an artist that was up and coming, and I was side hustles, but those side hustles, I lived and breathed it. And one day I was asked by Jelly Bean Benitez, who's like a legend in the music business, hey, so can you DJ? But he didn't really ask me that first. He asked me, a song was playing. He said, oh, I said, oh, I love this song. It's got such a great vibe. And he said, offhand, so how do you know this music? And I said, well, I think what's interesting is it's a Brazilian samba school, but the girl's singing in French. That's the joy of music, that sort of collision of, things that are not obvious, that makes it fun and light. And he said, well, can you, DJ? And I said, oh, and by the way, yes, I can DJ. And I own the license for that because I'd licensed it from the guy in Switzerland who did it. So I wasn't just sort of poking at it. I started a label. I did things. I had to learn about distribution in the country and in America. It wasn't just one digital partnership. It was 20 or 30 regional distribution networks. And so I taught myself, I studied all the time and made sure that I was not just gaining the wisdom, but the application. Well, how does this work? And I was unafraid to ask, I don't know how to do this. Could you help me? I'd love to learn. I'd love to, walk me through this. And the same thing when I started to DJ, I didn't think, well, I'm going to have this career as a DJ. I was like, I love music. And I do not understand why we aren't in environments where we can hear multicultural sounds, where there's music from all corners of the world, African, Brazilian, samba, salsa, world music from Africa, whatever. And I just decided, I'm going to shut up because my dad says, I don't want to hear you complaining unless you've got a creative response. So that was sort of embedded in me. And I was like, so don't complain. What is my creative response? And my creative response was like, shut up with the complaints. Go and make it then. Go. And if it doesn't exist, you make it. So I taught myself, the technology and how to do it. And that's what I did. But then that wasn't enough. I was like, well, I've got dark hair and all the headphones are black. Like I look like I'm wearing a blob, and I don't wear jeans and t-shirts. I'm not going to be like a Harry Potter DJ under the stairs. So I got all these glamorous outfits. I was like, well, maybe people would like me to wear their clothes. So I would ask friends who were stylists, hey, I don't know if you're doing this. And they were like, yes, we'd love to do that. Asked a hairstylist, got people enthusiastic, and then they would start bringing their friends to the gigs, and they, it became a really lovely creative collective. And I stayed very much in that lane. And I think that's something for this moment for people to really remember. There are two parts. Asking yourself first, what do I love? Mm-hmm. Of course, listening to the answer is imperative. But the second part of it is like, how does it help me become the best version of myself and the world around me? Is this in service of others, right? So when I came and staying creative, staying true to that creative yearning that I've always had, that's my truth. But it might be for somebody else that they are a great technician, and they love creating codes and things in the space of technology. Or someone might be great at food and they're reinventing what food might be to them. I'm doing that with Indian food, for instance. It's like something I've realized, gosh, I love this. But that requires what we just did there, Lavinia.
Yeah.
And that is shutting up.
Yes.
Being quiet, tuning in and listening deeply.
Yes. I love what you said. I mean, first of all, I hear so many things. Like I hear that you really are, like you were a born entrepreneur. Like if I was to say, because I always have this thing like your lane finds you. You don't usually find your lane when people are out there, because if you're staying true to what you do and you stay true to the essence and the soul connection of who you are, it kind of finds you. Like, you're sitting there next to this man who's asking you about music. Like that was all the way it was supposed to. It's all in divine order when you're like really connected to who you really are. Totally. I think very often it's people who are like, for instance, what people don't realize, like the music industry, I mentor a lot of young women, and there's so many women today that want to be in the music industry. And what I loved about what you said on every part of it, like you went to the library and you read about what it takes to get a green card. Like you do the work, like you did the work. And I think that's what is so important, is that there's so much that we can do, but we have to like actually start it, and we have to do it, and we can't wait for somebody else to tell us how to do something.
Absolutely. You have to do the work and get that word grit.
Right?
It's having the grit, like having the tenacity to do it. When I first started playing, I was like, well, I'm not just going to wear these black headsets. And a friend of mine who was working at Dolce & Gabbana, he was like, one day was like, started putting these crystals on. And I was like, wow, what a great idea. We took that idea to Swarovski, because I knew Nadia Swarovski from another event. And I was like, hey, Nadia, I've got these headsets. And we ended up doing a deal with them. They're called Rasa Rocks. We got the headsets. Here, I'll show them. Actually, I have them right here. Look, you're going to love them, Lavinia.
Oh my gosh.
But we made them, and I did a licensing deal with Swarovski, and we gave the money to their foundation, and it was to help. It was called the Princess Trust, and it was out of London, and it was to help people that come out of prisons to rehabilitate, right? Mm-hmm. So it was always about what's my art and my craft, but also, I can make money out of it. But it was a higher calling to go, wow, could we sell more? Would you guys put them in more stores if we actually give you a license and you can then push it forward, as opposed to what's in it for me and let me just own it all? So I think you have to really keep thinking about redefining and refining your own goals and your own integrity around it.
And also what I would say is your values. Like,
Absolutely.
I don't invest in anything that I don't think would help people.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm that's just one of my values. Like, I want to invest in things that I know are going to make somebody's life healthier, more joyful, more efficient. That's my lane. And
Yeah.
I found, for me, those are the people that I tend, because when you're producing something, that, or the crystals that I hold in my hand, or whatever it might be, when you're producing something, and then it's about reciprocation and passing it forward. I just think it brings good energy.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a teaching. I love the way you do that, because I think it also, we can talk about the teaching and the work, or you can live it and you embody it by actually doing it. It's not, and about the work. I know, like, you don't talk about the values of eating well. You know about it because it's been life affirming for you, for your family, for your friends. To each of us have drawn from that well, because you've done the work. That says, hey, well, that's interesting, but let me tell you another idea about how you might want to, deal with that issue. So, and there's, that's not something you just do by, wishing upon a star. You actually have to do some research. You have to talk to the right folks that are in that lane, and to the Eastern and the Western, whether it's allopathic or not, which is the right path for that issue.
Yeah.
So that's
And I
fun
think,
to do.
for me, it's always about being open.
Mm-hmm.
Just having an openness and being able to connect. And that's why, like, I think, like, right now, I'd love to, like, really, like, let's talk about, like, how and why you help people with meditation so much. Because one of the things that I feel, I don't care what it is, if it's finding the love of your life, or finding your vision, your purpose, how to make money. If you cannot connect to yourself, you can't connect to others. Connection,
Absolutely.
people don't talk enough about it. Like, I feel like connection should be part of every single curriculum in school, because,
Absolutely.
and should be part of, like, business school, because so many of these people come out and they cannot connect. They can't connect with your energy, with your vision, with somebody's excitement, with, like, they are just blah. Like, I mean, sometimes
it's interesting you say that, though. Don't you think I think, like, this is maybe the moment, or the greatest lesson of this global crisis, is that maybe for the first time, we're not just able to say that word connection and interconnectedness, but we're actually starting to understand. Maybe we understand it in the smallest way, like, hey, I can't get that thing I can normally just walk up the street and buy it. Or maybe it's like, God, I haven't seen that person for so long. How are they? So I think we're actually feeling the truer nature of what connection means, because I think we thought about so much about connection being like the network of, well, how does that connection help me, and how does that serve me, as opposed to, well, no, how am I? There's a saying that says your life changes when you stop asking what's in it for me, and you start asking, how may I serve?
Right.
And the how may I serve, that's how the meditation work came into me. I had my cousin was a lot older than me, and he used to come over to our house. He was from Perth, but he would meditate. He was into TM, which is, transcendental meditation. He would put on these white clothes and sit outside. He would meditate in a room. I would sit outside listening, like, what's going on in there, because I was this precocious kid, and I was like, and he would find me outside nearly every time, cross-legged, really peaceful. And he would take me on these little trips, and all I knew is he was doing this meditation thing. And when I was 17, I said to my family, we're going to meditate. We're going to learn how to meditate. And my father said, no, we're not. You can go do that if you want to, and your mom and your sister welcome, but I already meditate. And I was like, what do you mean? Dad said, I'm in I garden. And I was like, wow, that makes a lot of sense, Dad, because when I would ask him, hey Dad, what were you doing for the last few hours? And he's in the garden. He said nothing. He was empty. He was communing with nature. So he wasn't entirely empty, but it was his way of being peaceful. And so when meditation came into my life when I was 17, I started practicing TM. When I came, and I've fallen in and out of that, and then I worked with Deepak Chopra for many years, and I learned the primordial sound meditation. And I started to see the through line, which is all meditation has commonalities, and it's nearly always around breath, present moment awareness, and mantra. And it was interesting when I came to serve. I was DJing a party for Phoenix House, which is America's oldest drug and alcohol recovery facility. I was DJing a party for them, and I was thinking, why are they serving alcohol? I don't get it. Maybe I'm just silly. I don't get that. But I thought, well, obviously they're getting some money for it and they're getting funded. And so when I asked the next day, so how do you guys do this? Like, why did you have alcohol? But my more important question is, what do you do that is around the space of consciousness, like breath work or movement, yoga, meditation, conscious eating? They were like, what are you talking about? We don't understand. This is 10 years ago. And they said, well, why don't you come and help us? The gentleman who asked that question was a gentleman called Howard Meitner. He used to be the ex-chairman of Sephora. So I was like, well, that's interesting in and of itself. So I went, and just like I did with the DJ thing, I was like, well, I know certain meditations, but when I came to sit, first I sat in front of groups of teenage boys. Can you imagine? They were bouncing. They were like poltergeists, really frenetic energy. And I was like, wow, I don't know how I can serve them. And I thought, well, I tried, let me, just let it go. But then I said, no, that's not enough, Donna, get in there. Don't be a coward. So I went back and I said, let's try another group. So I sat down with a group, and I just literally, Lavinia, I closed my eyes and I was like, show me how to do this. Like, how do I do this work? And I got such a clear message. And I was thinking the divine's the she. She said, use music. Use music. It's your love. And so I did. I started pulling world music and bells and tones. And, I realized like the power of just doing that can make someone just drop in. And so that's what I did. And they had media people come within the first couple of months. And somebody asked me, well, what's your technique called? And I said, technique, okay. So I said, it's called a dip into bliss, because when you're in India and you go to the Ganga, you go to the Ganges, you're asked, have you dipped yet? Have you dipped in the Ganges, to renunciate past life's karma? And I was like, dip. I love that. So I called it a dip into bliss, because I was like, we all have an unlimited well of bliss inside us. And when we get through the noise, which is this part, we get to transcend into that. And so for 10 years, I've been refining and really, making this dip into bliss experience as best it can be. And it's been refined by my greatest teachers, which are people in the recovery space. They have been by far my greatest, most profound teachers, because they were not into any of the other meditations. They could care less. What they cared about was that I came with love, no judgments. And I just said, I just need you to do one thing, close your eyes. I'll do the rest. And little by little, whether they came out of Rikers Island, I realized, wow, the cuts they have on their body are nothing compared to the cuts on the soul. And what can I do but love them and show them there's nothing about you that we cannot love and that we cannot reach through your breath, through your ability, like we're saying, to self-govern. Because when you start self-governing, you can self-regulate, you can self-heal, you can self-motivate, you can self-love. But it begins, in a journey. It's not like we just went like this. We've had great success stories, and I've had some sad things happen where people just don't turn up. They don't turn up for their lives, and they just, that's just what it is. So you don't hold on to that. You go on with like, okay, who are the ones that I can uplift? Whose lives can we help transform? I'm just an agent of change for that. And you realize, I don't have responsibility. You have responsibility in doing the work yourself.
Right. I mean, really, Donna, I love your message, because the truth is everything begins and ends with us. you know, it's because very often people, it starts with like being the victim, right? We're the victim, we're the victim. And that when you're coming from that place of that victim, it means you just have inner work that you have to do. You know, that's a beautiful little bell saying, as soon as you're complaining or pointing a finger at somebody else, it's like, okay, it's time for me to do some inner work and heal some old wounds or heal some wounds that I have. And that's really what this meditation does, right? Like it helps people to heal some of those wounds so that this way they're not filling those wounds with alcohol or drugs or sex or, you know, for me, like in the beginning, the way I healed my wounds was by over exercising, you know, so, you know, that was my drug. I over exercised and, you know, until I just basically, and I was proving my worth. Like I proved to everybody that I was smart enough, I was pretty enough, I was this enough. Like, so it was like working out really hard and then doing that. And one day I just got up and I landed flat on the ground. But, you know, for most part, people would be like, oh, that's a good addiction, Lavinia. At least you have a good addiction.
That's true.
Any addiction isn't a good addiction. Like when some
because you're not paying attention. Like you said, you know, I thought it was so interesting what you said. Like you already had the signs. You were getting the signs, weren't you? You were paying it, but you started paying attention more. And it's when you started paying attention more and more. And that's one of the issues around any addiction. You know, ignorance is a terrible addiction. Racism is an awful addiction that we're now feeling. Arrogance. Yeah. Feeling like all of that, you know, when you're not really paying attention to the other, when you think that you're excluded or that you're better than the other, and you start without understanding, no, I'm actually the same as other. You know, I am a reflection of the other. But, you know, it's funny when we have technology, when we have a device, like we were having problems with our Zoom before. The first thing I did when I had problems with the Zoom technology is I was going to update it, reboot it, right, and restart. Goes back. Why don't we do that for ourselves? We're okay with our technology to do that, but on a spirit level, we want to take the salve. We'd rather take the pill. You know, like I've actually created, you know, this is a thing I wanted to bring up too. Like I created a sleep meditations experience because when I started asking the people who I was serving as a meditation, you know, guide, whether they were a model or a young woman in business or someone that's got addiction issues or a Bollywood or Hollywood superstar, I was like, hey, how are you sleeping? When over and over and over that person was telling me unreservedly, I don't sleep. I take this pill, I take that pill, and maybe I take 2 of these and 3 of those. I was like, my goodness, you know, there's a frequency for all of us. It's called a circadian frequency. It's a circadian rhythm that allows you to get the rest that you need every day. It's connected to the cosmos and it's connected to you, the cosmos in you. You're not separated. And I thought, and when I would say these things, often I was like, wow, that is so out there. What are you talking about? And I was like, it's so out there, but it's actually in there. It's in there for you. And so I created the sleep meditations because it's got nothing in it except harmonic frequencies that are connected like 528 hertz. What is that? A DNA frequency repair, you know, possibility. It's a heart frequency. It's a frequency that allows us to reset. We put ASMR in there because it connects to the nadi, the millions of nadi points in the body that make us feel tingly and aroused, not just sexually, but awakened, right? And it's got binaural beats in it. I put in breath entrainment so we could actually start having people entrain our breath to 6 breath cycles a minute, as opposed to we are so you know, we're so het up, we're so anxious, we're doing that we are, I think, breaking. We're not understanding the joy of one-on-one, having a cup of tea and asking that friend, hey, how are you really doing? How are you dealing with that thing? And listening. But it begins, as we say, begins with listening to self. when do we look at ourselves in the mirror and ask ourselves, hey, spirit in there, how are you doing?
Right.
What do you want today? What's your joy? What's your passion? What lights you up? We don't even, when we do our makeup in a perfunctory way, we brush our teeth, we look at what might be wrong and, you know, what we want to patch up and fix and hide, and as opposed to like, wow, you are a great person. You're doing such a great job. When do we have that true dialogue with ourselves? And that's I think that is the great joy of joys of this moment. You know, how can I show up with more truth, with more authenticity, with more light in me? For those that, you know, and including for myself first and then for others.
Well, because you can't give to others. Like, you know, you can't give what you don't have.
Mm-hmm.
So
right.
if you don't have that, that's why I believe so often, you know, right. I'll be with someone, I mean, not right now, and everything they're saying is amazing. Like they have the verbiage down, they're on point, but like, I'm feeling like, ooh, something's missing. Like I could feel there's an incongruence. You know, they're pretending everything's great. They're pretending they're doing the right. entrepreneur language, or they're doing the spiritual language, and they have that all down, you know, because people have access to all of this kind of stuff today. But you walk away and you're just going, wow, there was something incongruent there for me. Because right. again, like if you're not doing the work, so that's like, because we're going to really have to end soon. What I would really love for us to do, Donna, is on, you know, on the Inside Out website, it's all about curating beautiful mm-hmm. experts like yourself. Like, let's give them the reboot. Like, let's give right. people that they can download whatever the reboot is to get mm-hmm. people over the next 30 days rebooted with your dip into bliss, maybe some of the affirmations that you even talked about today.
Yeah.
And then of course the sleep meditation.
Yeah. And one of the most powerful ones, one of the most powerful ones is called Who Am I? And it's the words of a great South Indian where I'm from, saint, and he says, his name is Ramana Maharshi, and he says, stop looking in all the sacred places. So, you know, it's not a metaphor, right? But stop looking outside yourself, in other words, and ask yourself, dare to ask yourself one thing: who am I? And I definitely would share that with everybody, because this is where even Joseph Campbell says that we are so scared of that sacred place, that sacred cave, that we won't go there, but it's that sacred cave that holds our treasures. And it's getting to know yourself.
Yeah.
It will reduce our suffering. It will reduce our pain. It reconnects us, because all of that other stuff, that noise, and that's the point, all of this chatter that happens when we go into meditation, I do this because we want to go there. We want to stay in that beautiful, delicious stillness, not to fill it, but to enjoy and relish the emptiness, so we can listen to our purpose. Yes. So we'll definitely share all that. Pleasure.
I think that's great, because, you know, at a time like now, people are plugged in 24/7, you know, like they're never taking a break, because they're either on their iPhone, their computers, their music, like, it's like they are literally plugged in every moment. So it takes something. Right. You know, when I see these young people say, oh, I have a timer on my Instagram or something to tell me when I've been on social media more than it'll get me off after 3 hours a day. I'm like, 3 hours?
Oh my gosh.
3 hours a day? Like, are you kidding? Like, I don't.
But isn't it funny you say that, and yet we all know the intoxication of it, right? But the harm of it in doing, and again, it's another addiction. The other side of it is that, you know, you end up spiraling, going, oh, look what that person's doing. Look what this person's doing. You know, and you fear, all those fears get stirred up in you, and you could be taking that time maybe half the time. Let's get real. You're going to do it anyway, but let's get practical half the time and take that time to write down some goals, to actually put it, what's my path to manifesting that thing I want to do? Stop talking about it and create, like do the work.
Yeah, because I mean, if you're like, I guess the key word now is everybody talks about FOMO.
Yeah.
This is, a whole new thing because we didn't have FOMO because like, but the thing is just that time could be spent on number one, connecting to yourself. And then, in order to connect, first you have to connect to yourself. And that's why I love all this work, because then when there's some freedom, then you can start, like, there's a part where you can imagine, because everything started with imagination.
Exactly.
You have to be able to imagine like that. And then from the imagination comes creation.
That's right.
And then
Totally.
from creation comes communication, where you start communicating what your vision is, but there's no way that you can imagine when you're like this.
Yeah, that's right.
It's impossible. It is just so impossible.
It doesn't work. And that's why you've got to make space and move. We're called human beings, not human doings. Right. So in the beingness, and that's, I think if there is a purpose at all in meditation, it's simply to give you space, inner spaciousness, not so you can fill it, but so you can actually go, wow, because things start coming in. You'll get that idea of like, oh my God, I was struggling with that all that time. Oh, that's what it could be. Or, oh, that's a great idea. Oh, I didn't know I could think about it. And that, whatever ideas will drop in, because there's a field of infinite connection that we are already plugged in, but we clog it up with so much noise and so much crap for the most part. Even, watching the news, I've had a, like a moratorium on media at home, because I want to program myself. Yeah. I want to make my own delightful programming. I don't want to be programmed by someone else's idea of what's entertainment.
Right. Well, this was amazing, amazing. So could we close with a little meditation? Is there like a little meditation?
Of course. With pleasure.
And then again, everyone, because I think after that we should just, gracefully and with a lot of joy end this. But, again, go on to laviniaerrico.com. By Monday, we'll have a lot of these offers that you can be able to start your rebooting, really.
And I do it, by the way, every morning, Lavinia. I'm on Instagram Live every morning, 9 a.m. But you can watch it all day. We're now just letting it post so people can do it whenever they want.
So that's 9 a.m. Eastern time, correct?
Yeah, Eastern time. But you can go with Instagram Live. It lives everywhere. So you can do that all night.
So great.
Okay. Yeah, I'll give you that. But I would love that. Let's have an intention. It's called Sankalpa. And the intention I'd like to set, just to bring it all together with love and light, if we just gently close our eyes. The intention I'd like to set is for the healing and for a kinder vibration in the families that, first of all, are most affected by the suffering of this past week. And might each of us have the seed in us of courage to support and to love the ones that confuse us and confound us. Let us invite that grace. Let's keep our eyes softly closed just for a couple of moments. And just keeping your eyes softly closed. Take in these words of one of the great sages, Siddhartha, where he says, wisdom tells me that I am nothing. Love tells me that I am everything. And in between, my life flows. Take a long, slow, deep breath in through the nose. And exhale. Come back to your space. I want to thank you, Lavinia, for your beautiful spirit in bringing so much of our wisdom keepers together. And I know how much work you do and how passionate and compassionate you are about it. And thank you. It means so much to us to gather in Sangha, in community, to know that we're not alone, that we are seen, that we're loved. And I want to thank you and Lisa and Jennifer and your team for all the work. Thank you so very much for doing what you do.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for today, Donna.
You're welcome. Have a great, great night, everyone.
Bye, everyone. See you next week.